So, you want to learn a foreign language. Today, I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to speak any language fluently. My name is Benjamin White. I speak 4 languages fluently and 1 conversationally. I've been a language teacher for over 10 years, and I've helped thousands of people achieve their language learning goals. Whether you're an absolute beginner or well onto your journey, I'm going to explain everything you need to learn any language, including difficult languages with foreign alphabets and writing systems, for free, from home, without having to pay for any expensive classes or programs. I will also tell you my favorite apps and how to use them, as well as at the end of this video, which apps to avoid. So stay tuned for that. Step 1. Listening. The 4 skills in every language are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And you should learn them in that order, just like babies do. The first thing you have to be doing if you want to be successful in learning a foreign language is to be listening to it for at least a few hours a week. In the beginning, you are not going to understand anything, or very little. That's okay. Your ears need to get used to hearing the language, and this will set the foundation for you to be able to speak the language with an authentic accent later on. For this, I recommend rewatching your favorite TV show with the audio of the language that you're learning, your target language. For me, this is Avatar: The Legend of Aang, and this works especially well with animated shows. Don't use any subtitles right now, because then you will focus on reading instead of focusing on listening. We'll use subtitles later. You can also supplement this by listening to music in your target language. Step 2. Vocabulary. You need to start learning words and phrases, so get a different resource which is at your level. I made a PDF resource which explains the CEFR levels, which I'm giving to you for free. Link in the description. This will help you figure out what level you are at, what kinds of resources to use at each level, as well as how many words you should have committed to memory at each level. But this is not an exact science, so you can really choose to watch anything on Netflix, Disney+, YouTube, etc., which you want to watch. If in doubt, rewatch another one of your favorite programs. That way you'll be able to follow the story and understand things a lot faster. To understand the words in the video, watch it once with subtitles, look up the words you don't know on Google Translate, then watch it again without subtitles and see if you can understand any of the words. Think of this like using training wheels to learn to ride a bike and then taking them off. We're using subtitles in Google Translate as stepping stones to be able to understand the audio in the video. If your target language uses a foreign alphabet or writing system, then you have to use English subtitles. Translate them, listen to them using the speaker icon,
宝藏
and then listen to the video again
最好的宝藏
and see if you can understand any of the words. I have tried this with Chinese, and to be honest, it only actually works about 50 to 60% of the time, because the English subtitles don't match up exactly with the Chinese audio. The other way I found of deciphering what the words in the video are is to play the audio on full volume on my laptop in a quiet room and turning on the Translate by Voice button to try to catch them. Whatever language you're learning, you will not understand most of the new words the first time you hear them, and that's normal. Learning a new language is like trying to do a 5,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. Except instead of getting the jigsaw pieces in a box, someone is just throwing random pieces at you and you have to try to catch them and stick them together at the same time. On average, it takes 12 to 15 times of hearing or seeing a new word before you remember and understand it. So don't worry if you miss a bunch of jigsaw puzzle pieces, you'll catch them the next time they're thrown at you. Step 3. Spaced repetition theory. The key to doing hard things in life is to break them up into small, manageable pieces. When you are learning new vocabulary from videos, you want to do this in small chunks. Maybe one sentence or even half a sentence at a time to start off with. Then, once you've learned some or most of the words, you can commit them to long-term memory using spaced repetition. This video by Osmosis from Elsevier explains the general concept really well. Link in the description. Specifically related to language learning, this means revisiting each of your chunks after, say, 30 seconds, a minute, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, the next day, the next week. You can play around with this and see what works best for you, but essentially you have to go back and test yourself on your ability to understand these words. And the act of recalling a memory which was laying dormant is what cements it as a long-term memory. Don't overdo it because you need to maintain a balance between working hard and still enjoying yourself. If you're bored and not having fun, then that means you're not concentrating, and this is no longer effective study. So quit that video and move on to the next video. Especially at the beginner to intermediate levels, we reuse the same common words all the time. So moving on and studying the next video is in a sense repetition of most of the words from the last video. Words like have, be, go. Step 4. Comprehensible input. Comprehensible input is the gold standard of language learning. Comprehensible means you can understand it, and input means you're putting it into your brain. Listening and reading, essentially. Say, for example, I'm watching an episode of my favorite cartoon, Avatar: The Legend of Aang, every night with no subtitles. And then a couple times a week, I'm also trying to learn and memorize new words from children's stories on YouTube. Gradually, I will start to recognize and understand random words in Avatar because I already learned them from the YouTube videos. This is gold. This is what you are really looking for as a language learner, because if you are able to understand words in a new episode the first time you heard them, then they will stick in your long-term memory like glue, because you are recalling a dormant and previously established memory and stitching it to a new context. The only thing you need to do to ensure that comprehensible input happens for you is to study with a variety of different resources, and they will start to cross over and stick to each other. Step 5. Shadowing. During these listening exercises, practice saying new words and phrases out loud. Copy the accent in the video. If you are learning French, then your goal is to sound like a French person, not like a foreigner trying to speak French.
Bonjour. Hello.
You must exaggerate and move your lips, and subtitles must be turned off for this, to avoid interference from your native language. Step 6. Journaling. Learning a foreign language is hard and takes a long time. If you don't keep some sort of diary recording how much study you've done and which milestones you have reached, then it can be easy to lose focus and motivation. I have created a PDF guide which you can use to figure out roughly how many hours it will take to reach your goal level, and an activity planner to record what listening, speaking, reading, and writing practice you have done each week. That way you can keep track of how many total study hours you have accumulated. You can also download these for free, link in the description. Another good option is to treat learning a language like a video game. Video games have levels and milestones, and when you level up or complete a milestone, you feel good, and that encourages you to keep going. You could write down your own list of milestones and tick them off as you complete them. If you do this, make sure you start with small, achievable milestones. Start with things you can complete in a day. Step 7. Speaking. Download HelloTalk onto your phone to meet conversation partners. Start chatting, and as soon as possible, ask them to get on a video call to do a conversation practice. Tell them that you only want to speak in your target language for 15 minutes, and then you will speak in their target language, which is your native language, for the next 15 minutes. Do not switch back and forth between languages. You have to be totally immersed in the language for the set amount of time that you've decided. This is a big problem for English speakers especially, and I've even had this with paid tutors and teachers, where I'm trying to learn how to speak Dutch and they're switching into English to explain things to me. This is a waste of time. This ruins the immersive experience and thus ruins the exercise. For the 15 minutes in your target language, prepare and practice some conversation questions and answers.
你最喜欢的运动是什么？
You can ask your partner these questions and ask them to ask you the questions back so you can practice answering them. If you're struggling to find conversation partners on HelloTalk, get the cheapest possible tutor from italki.com. Some of them are only $4 for an hour of conversation. Step 8. Reading. This is the same process as listening. Break it into small chunks and read every chunk twice. Once looking up the words you don't know, then again by yourself. Training wheels on, training wheels off. If you're reading in a foreign alphabet or writing system, start by breaking it up into individual letters. Look up the letters or characters you don't know, and then read it again. For Chinese, you need to get your hands on pinyin dual text stories. Start by learning the pinyin, then go back and learn the characters. For Japanese, you need furigana dual texts. Learn hiragana and katakana first, then use furigana to learn the kanji. Step 9. Writing. Write something short on any topic you want, then send it to an exchange partner or tutor and ask them to correct it. Rewrite the corrections into new sentences. Then do another writing practice and send it to be corrected again. This is called a feedback loop. Small feedback loops are better than big feedback loops. Little by little, you are trying to memorize the corrections and internalize them so that you can write accurately without mistakes. If you spend a week writing something, then you will have already forgotten the corrections from last time. When you get up to the level where you are ready to start writing, which should be about B1 intermediate, B2 upper intermediate, then you should try to complete at least 3 writings a week. If this seems like too much, then your writing practices are too long. If you're learning to write in a foreign alphabet or writing system, then you might start with a 3-word sentence, like I am happy. You can handwrite this and send a photo to your partner or tutor. Then test yourself by trying to write it again from memory. Step 10. Conversion. Take new vocabulary from a listening resource and put it into a writing practice. Take new vocabulary from a reading resource and use it in a conversation. Input, output. You want to make as many connections in your brain as possible. That's what helps you remember vocabulary, understand grammar, and convert the new words you are learning into an ability to speak and write in the foreign language. Alright, I've already covered the apps that I do use: HelloTalk, Netflix, Disney+, YouTube, and italki.com. As promised, here are the apps that I don't recommend: Duolingo, Rosetta Stone, Memrise, Babbel, and many more. These are all the same kind of app, and they are for memorizing vocabulary out of context. Effective memorization is about making as many connections as possible in your brain. This is why we use stories to teach languages to children. The words are attached to the characters and the events in the story, which help children understand and remember them. In Duolingo and these other vocabulary memorization apps, the words aren't really attached to anything. It's mostly done with translations and the occasional picture. Now, learning vocabulary out of context can work if you then apply it to a context. So, if I was going to use a vocabulary memorization app, I would do 30 minutes on the app, followed immediately by 30 minutes of conversation, to try and link the words with something that gives me a greater variety of neural pathways. Or if you're someone who uses Duolingo or Rosetta Stone for 10 or 20 minutes on the train in the morning, just make sure you are doing other listening and speaking exercises each week. You might be watching a TV show or talking to someone and go, "Hey, that word, I remember that word from Duolingo." And that's comprehensible input, recalling the memory. Neurotypical people will also have greater success with this than neurodiverse, because neurotypical people generally have a greater inherent capacity to cross-contextualize learning. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them or reply in a future video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all of your friends. Hoodoo!